As a leader, are you having a hard time getting people to do what you want them to do? Well, then you're going to get a lot out of today's episode on the Meeting Leadership Podcast, because today we're going to talk about how to get buy-in from employees.
Are you a professional who wants to become a more effective leader? Then get ready for daily tips from the coach with the experience and inspiration to help you succeed in any leadership situation. You're listening to the Meeting Leadership Podcast with Gordon Shepherd.
Welcome to another episode of the Meeting Leadership Podcast. My name is Gordon Shepherd. I just want to say thank you for being here, whether you're on the treadmill, maybe you're out walking the dog, pushing your kid in the stroller, whatever you're doing. It's really good to have you here because you're the type of person who wants to take their leadership skills up a notch. You really want to be able to pick up another strategy, another practical tip that you can actually take out and apply to make your next meeting significantly more effective. And you're choosing this podcast to do that. I really want to say, honestly, thank you for being here. And on today's show, we're going to tackle a topic that is important for every leader, because today we're going to get into how to get buy-in from employees. And thankfully, we've got a great guest on the show. Her name is Belinda Panganiban from MacEwan University. Now, not only is Belinda an assistant professor who backs it up with an MBA credential, she actually has really deep healthcare experience, and more than that, many senior leadership opportunities where she's gained a ton of wisdom, a ton of knowledge, and on today's show, she's going to share that in a wonderful interview. And I'm not going to hold you back any longer. Here it is with Belinda. Belinda, welcome to the show.
Hello.
It is just wonderful to have you here, and I know we can go on about accolades and your deep experience. The fun part for me in meeting you has been that you are such a straight shooter, but there's a lot of people that really haven't gotten to know you just yet. So if you had to introduce yourself at a party, what would you tell people?
I would say that, hello, my name is Belinda. I am somebody that's going to tell you what I think. I like to have fun, but I also know how to be serious. And I also know how to get a job done. I know that juggling more than one thing can be stressful for others, but I thrive in that environment. And so I'm always on the go.
Well, I think that characterizes, it's just about right. And I know that people are going to get a lot out of today's episode, because today we're actually going to learn from you about how to get buy-in from employees. And so why are you so passionate about this topic?
If your employees are actually wanting to be where they are, then there's nothing that you guys can't do together. For me, having employees that are happy, that have that work-life balance, that also wants to come to work is very important, because then everybody has a win-win situation out of that.
Well, and that's really important. And I'm going to guess with all the different sort of leadership roles that you've been in over the years, what are some of the techniques that you've been able to put in place to actually get this done?
It could be something so simple as, let's say it's the day before the long weekend and things are really quiet. I would say to some of my staff, I'll man the phones. Why don't you guys get ahead of the traffic or go home early and start your long weekend? Nothing's going to happen that I can't take care of. And if it does, then I'll wait until we have to deal with it when you guys come back.
Wow. And that just cost you what? A couple of hours, one afternoon. What's the payoff as a leader when you do that type of act for the people that are working for you?
They show that when I need the help, when I need them to stay back, it's the payback is they will be willing to do it. And it's not a chore. When your work becomes a chore, I think that's when people start to not want to come and not want to do things above and beyond. But when you actually show them that you're willing to invest in them, they're going to turn that investment back into you.
You are taking me back to my days in corporate, the inspiration for all that pain I had to go through for so many years for the work that I do now. I really, really appreciate it. And the thing, in terms of leadership styles, there are certain leadership styles that just are never going to get employee buy-in. And I know we were talking about micromanagement being one of them.
I so totally agree with that. I think one of the other things that we talked about is in my lifetime, I always have this motto that I may not know what I want to do in my life, even though I'm at the age that I'm at. But there's one thing that I've learned over the years is I know what I don't want to do. And what I don't want to do is to be backed in a corner and micromanaged by anyone. I think that we all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. And really, if we give people the autonomy to make decisions and to provide input, then that only helps make them grow. And they're not waiting for the next command. They actually will take the bull by the horns and run with it when they need to and decide what to do with it. Otherwise, you're at a stagnant situation where no one's doing anything until you actually say something. And who wants to be that person?
Well, and the productivity in that type of situation is so low. I mean, is this something that you were born with, this attitude, or did you pick it up at some point in your career?
You know, it was interesting because when I was starting off in my career, I think like anybody else, you're not experienced and you're looking for that guidance. So you would look for somebody to provide you that, and you thought that that was really the way to go. But then as you gained experience and as you went into different work fields and learned from mentors, you knew that that may not be the best way to have a leader lead their team. And so I learned that I also didn't like it because the more people did that to me, the more I felt like, but I know how to think. I have a brain. I have a mind. Why aren't you listening to what I want to say? So the more that I felt that way, the more that I knew I never wanted to be that type of a leader.
This is a lucky gift, I'm sure, for the folks that came along under you in later parts of your career.
Yes, because I know that when I was starting off, like I say, having mentors that did that to me, you mimic that behavior. And then you saw what the fallout was. And then I realized, no, that's not the way to go. And the fact of the matter is people will do more for you when you treat them with respect and you give them a little slack when things don't go their way. If they're a little late, chalk it up to don't worry about it. Things happen. And so you need to make sure that you just have to do what's right.
I can hear in the tone of your voice the kind of been there, done that. And I know for the leaders that are listening to this episode right now, they're going to get a ton out of what you've just said, again, especially in the tone of what you said. I want to say thank you so much for being on the show. And if people need to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
My email is my last name, so it's pretty long. It's Panganiban, B, so Panganiban, and the letter B, at MacEwan.ca. That's MacEwan. So Panganiban B at MacEwan.ca.
Well, and if I ever wanted to go back to school and be a student again, I'd want to jump into one of your classes, and I can hear that there must be just sort of boatload after boatload of students going out in the world with your good attitude.
You reap what you sow, as they say. So, I want to make sure that the students in my class are treated the same way that I would treat even my employees. And so if you don't have to change your colors for every situation, then you'll continue to practice the way you're supposed to.
What a great gift. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I absolutely appreciate how much all of us can take away from that great and insightful interview with Belinda. I mean, put away the hammer as a leader, find those little nuancy ways to get real buy-in from people. You'll have less work to do in the end, and they will be significantly more happy. And if you'd like to get even more great tips from Belinda, then check out episode 121 on the Meeting Leadership podcast. It's called Why Leaders Should Be Open-Minded, and you can get that episode by going to meetingleadershipinc.com/121. And then we are lucky enough to have Belinda back again on episode 128 on the Meeting Leadership podcast. And there, she's going to share an inspiring leadership story about one of her students that you're just never going to forget. And you can get that episode by going to meetingleadershipinc.com/128. And I also want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by the Meeting Leadership Academy. Now there, you're going to find some really strong online training options and live training options that you and your team can take advantage of to learn how to build your leadership skills, to learn how to run highly effective meetings. And you can check that out by going to meetingleadershipinc.com/academy. And I also highly recommend that you take a moment to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss another episode of the show. And then take a moment also to write a rating and review, and that will influence the future content that we bring to you right here on the podcast. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Meeting Leadership Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Meeting Leadership Podcast. Be sure to subscribe for more strategies to help you become an outstanding leader. And don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you fresh content every day. We'll see you tomorrow, right here on the Meeting Leadership Podcast.
I'm on top of the world, now I'm living, and the good just gets better, keeps on giving, not even close to the end.